are all whores. No, most men, not 26% of men have had 0 sexual partners in the last year. Something like 31% of men had see how you're saying what? 31% of men have had 0 sexual partners from the time they're 18 to the time they're 30. 0 sexual partners. 26.
Well,
and then
no, the 18 to 30.
So they're not counting 18 because obviously, like in some states, it's not legal. But from from their survey from the time they're 18 to 30, 0 sexual partners. It's like over 26. It's like 27, 28, 29% of men.
That makes me sad.
It makes you sad, but if it makes you sad, go to Walmart, walk around, and then tell me
you gotta be more charitable, ladies.
Tell me who's fucking those men, and you'll see nobody is. And then when you say there are no good men, these men are all trash, you're talking about the super good looking host that you met walking into Tao Beach. Those are the guys that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a jaded view of the world because that's not how the world really is. What you will find out, and in every society throughout history, it's like 20% of men having sex with 80% of the women. That is essentially what ends up happening.
Not gonna lie, right now, bro is straight cooking, man. He's speaking straight facts, man. For real. When women sit up there, and I've noticed this too, when women sit up there and they say all men are whores, I always try to correct them and say, no, the men that you want, the men that you like are whores. Okay? These men that are in the top 10 to 20% of guys, that looks, wealth, height, all that, these guys have a plethora of women chasing behind them constantly. So you're just one of the girls that basically didn't get chose by them. So now you say all men are whores. That's BS, man. Because you know what? The guys at Walmart, the guys that are at the gas station, the guys that, a lot of these guys that do construction, you guys don't even really see them. You don't see them as a valuable option. So if they don't exist as a valuable option in your mind, they don't exist. Let's continue.
So the reason why there's an increase in incel pages and, men coming out and selling these books of like, oh, be an alpha male or do this and women will want you is because the male loneliness epidemic has hit. The loneliest group of men are men between ages 18 to 30. Because 1 in 3 men are 18 to 30 are virgins. 1 in 3 men who are 18 to 30 never been in a relationship. Another group that's excessively lonely is middle-aged men. Yes, the men are supposed to have all the value when they get older. They're most likely to commit suicide because of their loneliness. This video got deleted. I want you to go back and watch this video on my YouTube page. Men don't ever complain about what they have access to. Men don't ever complain about what they have access to. So this is why we see like an increase of men in these groups. But one thing I want you to understand is going to get dangerous for women. Women that men want is such a small percentage of the population that they have to compete for it, and it does not work. They're going to start, I hate to say it, but abusing women, touching children, doing things like that. So it's going to get really, really bad, right?
Yeah, and I actually agree with her about that part. With these rise of sexless men, it's going to create a society in which you have these characters that are much more likely to, abuse women, to abuse children, to some of them. There was studies saying that a lot of these guys, could end up being like shooters or school shooters or mass shooters. She's absolutely right about that, and they are dangerous. They are dangerous. Let's continue.
When you have a large group of sexless men, like a lot of times they get aggressive.
So the fix to the sexless problem with men is adult content, right?
Yeah.
That's the current fix.
Yeah.
If we take away that fix, right, we also have to take away the cause.
Right.
And the cause is things like Instagram and dating apps. Habitual porn use leads to a reduced drive in men. That's one point. The point Pearl's trying to make here right now is like, okay, well, if we took away porn, now there's a bunch of dudes who don't have any dating options whatsoever. And if they are frustrated, then they will burn the society down.
And hey, who can blame them, man? They're sitting around watching porn, looking at their phone, playing video games, sitting in mom's basement because they have no motivation. To keep it real with you, a lot of these girls' expectations are just too high for them. Think about it like this. Your grandfather more times less money to get a woman that was 10 times better than the woman that they have. What man is going to want what man is going to have motivation now? 9 times, 10 times harder than his grandfather, or a woman that's 10 times worse.
Should a man last in bed?
I would say
The number of sexless men has tripled in the last 10 years, and videos like this don't help. In 2018, a study found that 27% of men under the age of 30 have had 0 sexual partners since the age of 18. This is up from the 8% number just 10 years prior, and I'd hate to see the charts by today. The smartphone generation was created when things like the iPhone and social media first started becoming popular, back in the year 2008. We are the most connected society that's ever existed, but at the same time, we are the loneliest society that's ever existed. Dating apps like Tinder came around in the year 2012, which sped up the rate of sexlessness. Studies found that the top 78% of attractive women on these apps were only swiping right on the top 20% of attractive males, creating a big imbalance. So the average man seems out of luck when it comes to the dating apps, because they have to compete with the Giga Chads of the world. The problem
And this is what they fail to understand. And this is what I was trying to explain earlier, is that women would gladly be a side piece to a guy that's a Giga Chad, but will take issue with being a wife to a guy that basically would take care of them. That's not a Giga Chad. That's a regular guy. You know, you rather go be 1 of 10 with this guy than be 1 of 1 with Steve over here, who's gonna treat you good, who's gonna go to work every day, who's gonna not cheat on you. You know, he's gonna put you on a pedestal. You'd rather be treated like shit by Chad over here, who's never gonna take you serious, who's never gonna wife you, and who's gonna dog you out all the way. This is what you would rather do, though. But hey, let's continue.
to compete with the Giga Chads of the world. The problem for most men is they're becoming less masculine, so they're unable to attract the feminine woman. This decrease comes from many reasons, such as young boys growing up without father figures, testosterone levels dropping due to lifestyle choices, the loss of real-world communication skills in the digital age, the shaming of toxic masculinity, and the ease of access for pornography. Yes, the modern dating market is in dire straits for the average man. So what can you do about it? Number one, start giving a shit about your image. Become physically fit and well-groomed. And
That's right, y'all. Get y'all asses in the gym, man. Get in the gym, hit those weights, get fit. We are not contributing to the pussification of manhood in today's society, man. Get y'all ass in the gym, hit them weights, man. If you ain't hitting the weights, at least get some game of basketball or something. Do something, man. You can't be sitting around, man. Let's go.
America, 1 in 3 males under the age of 30 has not had sex in the last 12 months.
The point that he claims to be making in this video is that we're producing too many of the most dangerous people in the world, which he says is the young, broken, alone man. And I find it interesting that he started the video by talking about how much sex they're having, because we shouldn't be measuring men's mental health or their amount of success by the frequency in which they're having intercourse. But
I hate how she started off with, he claims. Okay, man, first of all, that dude, I forget his name, but he's actually extremely knowledgeable. He doesn't claim anything. He knows it's a fact, okay? If he's saying it's probably a fact, okay? And it's probably backed up by evidence. I want to say this as well, okay? Men's validation, just the same way that women's validation comes from the amount of attention that they get, men's validation comes from the amount of sex that we have with different women, okay? That's just the way it is. That's the way it works. When they sit up there and say, when she sits up there and says, oh, his level of success shouldn't be determined by how much, well, maybe it shouldn't be. Kids shouldn't be starving in Africa. There shouldn't be wars, but that's just the way it is. It's the way it works. That's the way of the world. A man measures his success by how many girls he can get to sleep with him. That's just the way it is. Get over it.
measuring men's mental health or their amount of success by the frequency in which they're having intercourse. But if you really want to have that conversation, then I think you have to at least acknowledge that men are lonely for the same reasons they aren't having sex. Because that lack of emotional intelligence that prevents them from having intimate experiences is also what's prohibiting them from having healthy relationships. And it's also why we're seeing married men who aren't having sex and lonely men who are having an abundance of it. But insisting that this is somehow the fault of women is wrong, because a man's stability should never be dependent on his level of access to a woman's body.
Listen, man, I'm not gonna sit up here and say that it's women's fault for not having enough sex with men. You know what? I am gonna say it, okay? It's women's fault for not having enough sex with men. Women's standards are too high. That's just what it is, guys. Call it for what it is. Me personally, I've never really had an issue with women, but I know plenty of guys that do have issues with women. Either they're awkward, or they might not be tall enough, or they might not be, as charismatic, or they might not have the aesthetic that the woman particularly wants. But here's the thing, man. We are gonna blame women for that, man, because at the same time, the women are fucking the same guy. You guys are all fucking the same top 10% of guys. You're fucking the same guys, and you're leaving these other guys to just fend for themselves. So that's just what it is.
Somehow the fault of women is wrong, because a man's stability should never be dependent on his level of access to a woman's body. And to imply that it is takes responsibility off the person who actually needs to be doing the work. Men aren't getting angrier because they aren't having sex. They aren't having sex because they're angry. And until we stop pretending like sex is the fundamental building block of masculinity, we aren't going to see healthier men or better relationships with women.
Yeah, except sex is a fundamental building block of masculinity. It is, though. You don't want it to be, but I can't stand when women are on here talking about what masculinity. You're a woman. You don't know shit. You don't know shit. All right? And they're not walking around not having sex because they're angry. These type of people, it's hard for me to listen to them because she's clearly like a vindictive person. And I kind of checked out her channel a little bit, and I could just kind of see that she's kind of, I'm not gonna say she's a full-blown misandrist, but she's more on the side of the women. She's more of an emotional arguing kind of a person. But there's a lot of women out here that think like this, that are like this, and we just got to get past it, man. Let's continue.
Or young male that has is getting no interest from women as being a mass shooter. But when these men become isolated, they become much more prone to content. They become much more prone to conspiracy theory, less likely to believe in climate change. They just become poor citizens. And once they get past a certain point of isolation, they don't develop any EQ, any social skills. It used to be kind of friends, work, college. Now
he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. I know plenty of guys that are just like that. Plenty of them. Let's continue.
Have an open conversation around this because you're risk sanctioning, but women and men have different criteria for the people they're initially attracted to. For women, it's number 3, kindness, number 2, intelligence, and number 1 is their ability to signal resources. A guy on Twitter, if there's 50 men on Tinder and 50 women on Tinder, between 40 and 45 of the women will show all of their attention to just 5 to 10 men. Women are much choosier. They have a much finer filter. They swipe right on much fewer people. So the result is what I'll call Porsche polygamy. And that is the top 10 of attractiveness, or not top 10% of attractiveness of male get all of the attention, which doesn't encourage good behavior or long-term relationships. And the bottom half of men, from an attractiveness standpoint, are totally shut out of the market. So if mating if you apply the Gini coefficient, which is variance to mating, it's more unequal than income inequality in Venezuela. It's no more aspirational or thoughtful or balanced. It's appearance, but men are attracted to and willing to swipe right on a much broader set of women. And some women are just much choosier because biologically, the reality is the downside of sex and pregnancy is much greater for women. So women traditionally are much choosier about partners. And when you bring technology in, it becomes a winner take most environment. And that's what's happening here, where you have a small number of men who garner almost all of the attention. And also in a 2-dimensional format, it doesn't give you the opportunity to experience some of the wonderful chemistry and magic and mystery of what you're attracted to. There's no smell, there's no humor, there's no body language, there's no vibe. It's really about, okay, if you went to MIT and you're starting at KKR or Google and your Rolex accidentally slips into your profile picture and you're geolocating from high income zip code, you're going to get a lot of attention. And men have a much broader perspective, or I don't know what the term is, just aren't as choosy. I think that there's a lot of things we could do. One.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it right there. I think there was a lot of good points made today. I think that the rise of sexless men does create a dangerous society for not just other women or women, but also for other men as well. Because it lends credence, lends way to school shooters, to people doing mass shootings at churches, maybe crazy attacks. It lends a way for them to spend their time, looking at, misogynistic content, where they're abusing women, or it may manifest itself in a way that maybe they're looking at children, or they're, molesting children. I think that I've said this before, that men and women are better together. I think that women should stop being so, I'm not gonna say choosy, because it's you guys, you guys getting pregnant and all that. I would say stop being unrealistic. Right? Stop being unrealistic, man. A lot of the times, like, guys end up settling for girls that they don't even really. It wasn't the first girl that they chose either, or it wasn't the first option that they had, or that wasn't their top option in their mind either. So we're all humans. We're all meant to be together, man. Let's just stick together and make it work. Hey, like, subscribe, comment, though. I appreciate y'all watching, man. Holla at your boy. Let's go.